All right, let's add some style to our button and our add to list form. Okay, so what I'm going to do is we're going to go into the div that's surrounding the form and let's add style to it. So we're going to go style equals, and we're going to do the double curly brace way of doing it because we don't have a ton to do. So what I want to do is I want to display flex first. So we're going to display flex, and then we're going to justify content. And we have to use the camel case. Justify content, and let's make it space between. And what else should we do? Let's make it a little bigger. It's so small. So let's make height let's make it 30 pixels. And what else should we do? Background color. Let's make a background color. So let's just do background, and let's say I'm going to do one of my favorite colors, teal. All right, that should do it. Let's see what it looks like. I like it. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now we have to do something else because I want it to be like, maybe we should put some padding in. Let's try padding. All right, let's put 10 pixels. And oh, we forgot to put our little apostrophe there, or comma, I mean. Okay, let's see if that makes it look a little bit better. Nope. All right, let's do 5 pixels. Whoops, 5 pixels. And you can play around with this just for fun, you know, to make it look the way you want. Yeah, that looks good. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do is make it functional now. All right. So we need to go into, we're already here. So we're in our add to list component. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to create state inside this component. Instead of bringing it up to the app, we're going to create something called component level state. So the reason we're doing that is this component, since we have to input right inside this component, we're changing the state inside this component. So that's why we're going to do components level state instead of app level state. So state equals, and make our JavaScript object, and we're going to say title, and we're going to give it an empty string. Okay, then what we're going to do is go down to our form, because that's where we're going to be changing, you know, people are going to be adding stuff to it. So we're going to go into our form, and we're going to go after the placeholder. Let me make this a little bit easier to read. So let's put this here. Let's go type here. Let's put name here. Let's put placeholder here. And then when we do the next one is our input. Let's do the same thing for our input, our button. Okay, it's a little bit easier to read. Let's make it look like that. Okay. So up here, we added our state and the title. And so when people add to the list, they're going to be typing in here, and there's going to be a value, and we're going to need to grab that value. So the first thing we're going to do is go under the placeholder, and we're going to create value equals, and then we're going to do curly braces, and we're going to say this dot state dot title and curly brace. Okay. And then we're going to save. It looks good. Now I wanted to alert you to a warning that we're getting, and it says that failed prop type. You provided a value prop to a form field without an onChange handler. So we're going to have to create an onChange handler. So underneath here, we're going to say onChange equals, and then we're going to create a function. So we can call it whatever we want. So this dot, I'm going to call it onAdd. So when people are adding, okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is we're going to have to go up to up here. We're going to before the render, we're going to have to create that function. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to say onAdd equals, and we're going to do our event, and we're going to do an arrow function, this dot set state. So because we're, they're changing the state now, so we're putting all this stuff into the component versus having to move it up to the app like we did on the other components. So this dot set state, and then we're going to say title, because the title is what is changing, and then we're going to say e.target.value. So basically whatever is put into that input field, this e.target.value is going to grab that value. And then we're done with that. Okay, and then we go like that. And let's see if we save, if that error goes away. Yes. Okay, so the error went away. All right. Okay, now we want to work on the submit button. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the form, and we're going to say on submit equals this dot on submit. All right, and then what we need to do is we need to go up here, and above our onAdd, let's create an onSubmit function then. Okay, so let's see. So we called it onSubmit. So onSubmit and equals, and we're going to do our event just like before. And then we're going to do our arrow function just like before. And then we need to prevent the default. So the default of submitting to the file. So we're going to say e.prevent default with a capital D. And then that. Okay. All right. The next we're going to do this dot props dot add to list, and we're going to use that later, the add to list, and then we're going to say this dot state dot title, because that's the property that we're talking about. Okay, and then we're going to set the state, this dot set state, because we're right here in here, and what this is going to do is it's going to reset it, so back to, if somebody changes it and then after the submit, it's going to go back to having nothing in it. So we're going to say an empty quotation so that it can go back to having nothing in it. Okay. So that's going to be that. Now what we're going to do next is we have to pass all this up to the app.js. Okay, so let's save this. And then we're going to go up to app.js. Next. Okay. All right. So what we're going to do, see where it says add to list? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to add to that. So we're going to say add to list, which is what we created back in the other component, remember, equals curly braces, this dot add to list. Okay, got that done. Okay, and then the next thing is we have to create it above the render. So remember how we did our function delete and we did our onComplete? Well, we're going to do another one now. We're going to do one that's called add to list. Okay, so add to list equals, and then we're going to say title, then we're going to do our arrow function. So it's very similar. Okay. Then we're going to do our curly braces. Okay. This dot set state. This dot set state, and then we're going to do parentheses, and then we're going to do the curly braces again, to-dos, just like before, to-dos, colon. Then we're going to do our array, and then we're going to do our spread operator. This dot state dot to-dos. Then we're going to create a new function called new to-do. So let's see. New to do. Oh, I think I'll just do a regular D. Oops, Toto. New to do. Okay, and then there's our error. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to put a little space right here. Okay, so now we have to take this new to do and we need to bring it up here and create it. So const new to do equals, all right, so we're going to put an ID in there. We're going to put, and we're going to use 4 right now, just for now, because remember we have the original 3, so we're just going to use 4 for now. Then we're going to put title, oops, comma, and then we're going to do finished, and we're going to set that to false. Okay, before we save and check it out, we need to change this. This is not correct. It should just be state, not set state. So let's just make it state. Okay, and then if we hit save, and then if we go over here and we go and add another one like practice coding, and we hit submit. All right, and then we should be able to delete. Okay, and it's looking good. Looks good. All right, we do have an issue with this ID 4 right now because we're not using a database, so we're just working on the front end right now. And so since we have 3 of these hard-coded in, if you remember, we have 3 of them hard-coded in with the ID. So every time we add a new one, it's going to give it the ID of 4. So if I go to the store, submit, and I add another one, practice coding, and then I hit submit. If I delete practice coding, it's probably going to delete both of these because they're both going to be ID of 4. Yep. So what we would have to do is we could either, we can just leave it because we don't care, because we're just practicing. That's what we're going to do. so if you were working on the with a database, you would have real IDs that you would be grabbing. You also, for development options, we could use UUID, which is it's a tool from NPM, and it would create like random IDs, and then we could install that and then use that just to make it kosher, you know, just to make it right. But since we're just practicing, we're just going to leave it. Okay, so we have finished everything. This is it. This is it. We finished project 2. I know it took a long time. You probably felt like, wow, this is a lot to learn, but I hope you got a sense for how things are added, the components, and how you use props to bring everything up. So hopefully it was very helpful to you. We're going to create another project. We're going to start another project, and it's going to be even a little bit more complex, not too much more, and just to keep practicing. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you for project 3.